I think it was back in our live stream discussion for the solitary clone that I compared Crosshair to the smoking man from the X-Files, meaning that if the smoking man was in an episode, you knew it was going to be good. And episode 12 of season 2 of The Bad Batch, titled The Outpost, was a Crosshair episode, and it was good. We start with him on Coruscant as he watches the era of the clone continuing to end as 3 troopers are forced into retirement. They ask what they're meant to do now, which is tragic after the events of the clone conspiracy and Truth and Consequences. Senator Chuchi fought and failed to give clones a safety net after their service. They were trained from birth to be soldiers and nothing more. Now they're just being thrown into the galaxy with no other experience. The Obi-Wan Kenobi series showed us only one struggling war veteran on Daiyu, but I expect that was a common sight in the galaxy. That seems like Crosshair's greatest fear. The entire series, he has only ever wanted to remain a soldier. I think he's afraid he doesn't know how to be anything else. He sees those clones being forced out of service, and I'm sure he thinks it's unfortunate, but it won't happen to him. He's enhanced. He's one of the best the Empire's got. He'll get to keep fighting forever. Then he meets one of the worst Imperial officers we have ever seen, and it's not like the bar was set low. There are a lot of terrible officers, but Lieutenant Nolan can hang with the worst of them. He's leading a mission to recover stolen cargo from insurgents. There's that catch-all term the Empire has used all season. Any and every problem is immediately labeled as an insurgent. The families and civilians of Desix who just want to be free? Insurgents. We saw senators using the same language, claiming anyone dissatisfied with Imperial rule in the Outer Rim are insurgents as well. No care is taken to look into why people are dissatisfied or how the problem can be diplomatically addressed. They're all just lumped into one dissenting enemy group. And that philosophy is very much at play when it comes to Crosshair as well. Nolan doesn't view him as a special enhanced clone with special skills and value. Nope, he's just a clone. Nolan makes his distaste of clones abundantly clear, calling them all used equipment. That's how the Empire views everything, dehumanized, as impersonal groups. They look at the institutions and judge whether or not they are useful without considering the actual people that make up each institution. Enemy or ally, it doesn't matter. On the planet Barton 4, we meet the latest new awesome clone character, Commander Mayday, who has been guarding the Imperial facility with dwindling forces. He is completely jaded after being left on this desolate frozen world for over 36 days. I think he is meant to be a direct foil to Crosshair, who was left alone on Kamino for nearly that same length of time before he was rescued and he returned to the Empire. An act so blindly loyal that even Rampart scoffed at it. Mayday has no such loyalty for Nolan, and I love him for that. Crosshair seems more hesitant to like the commander, which makes complete sense. He is the solitary clone. He felt abandoned by his brothers, then Cody left. He has no love for the regs. He probably doesn't want to get close to anyone for fear of losing them too. But Mayday breaks through that cold exterior just enough to at least get him to share his name. He doesn't seem like other regs. He's got more personality. He's kept an element of customization to his armor, which is awesome, by the way. I get the sense he has gotten past the programming of his inhibitor chip like Cody and Hauser. I can buy that. Being left to fend for himself and his men, guarding cargo he isn't even allowed to know about. He tells Crosshair how dangerous the snowy wilderness is and points out the ice vultures flying overhead, explaining that even though they're vicious, he admires their ability to survive. But they're interrupted by an attack, which kills the final 2 clones in Mayday's squad. Oh, and also 2 crates were stolen, and guess what Lieutenant Nolan cares more about? He sends Crosshair and Mayday into the mountains to find and recover the cargo. They first find a dead raider that Crosshair wounded earlier. Mayday is bothered by the fact that his cohorts just left him there, and Crosshair predicts they simply didn't want to carry dead weight. I think that's how he's viewing all of his relationships at this point, as dead weight. Like I said, he's lost every other clone he was ever close to, so what's the point? In his mind, it's better to just stay shut off from everyone else. Don't build any relationships. They won't help you be the best soldier for the Empire anyway. But Mayday's not having that. He was obviously close with all of his men who were killed one by one. He felt and respected the losses of all his clone brethren. When Crosshair steps on a mine, Mayday says he doesn't feel like carrying the other clone back to the base, so he attempts to disarm it, which tells us that he is not the kind of person to just leave Crosshair to be picked apart by ice vultures. While he saves his life, he makes conversation and gets Crosshair to open up just a little bit more. That small moment where he says the words Clone Force 99 was great. The pause before he starts talking, fantastic. He simply tells Mayday that the rest of his squad is gone, and the commander talks about how sad it is that they've lost their purpose as soldiers left to guard cargo for ungrateful officers. Crosshair lies to himself, saying that any mission is worthwhile, but Mayday sees through that. He has seen how their lot in life is changing. He can't properly disarm the mine because the Empire has ignored all of his requests for resupplies, so he has learned to improvise, and he guesses that all clones have had to learn to do the same since the war ended. Some certainly have, like the Bad Batch, I think to varying degrees of success, but that is improvisation. They have to figure out who they are and what they stand for without the Republic as a safety net. I think we finally saw in last week's episode that they have not been living up to their full potential working for Sid, and like Echo has always said, they could and should be doing more. Crosshair has been stubbornly refusing to improvise or adapt or make changes of any kind. He wants to remain a soldier and will do anything and take any mission so he can remain valuable to the Empire. With the mine disarmed, the pair make it to the Raiders' camp. The attack is exciting and explosive, literally. They recover the cargo and learn they were risking their lives for TK Trooper armor. I love Mayday's new delivery of a familiar line. We were good soldiers. We followed orders. And for what? It's a rhetorical question, but then Crosshair is forced to ask himself, what is all of this for? He wants to be a soldier, it's all he knows, I get that, but what is he getting out of it? He used to be fighting for a noble cause. He used to get family and camaraderie out of service. He used to get gratitude. None of that is true anymore. Before he can think about it too long, an avalanche begins, and they have to make a run for it. I think that could be symbolic of Crosshair's own attempts to outpace the changing galaxy. He thinks he can do enough to remain with the Empire, but it doesn't matter how hard he works or how useful he makes himself. He's just a clone. Nolan doesn't see him any differently than the regs. He can run all he wants, but that avalanche is going to catch up and suffocate him. I love that the snow knocks his helmet off. It's been a symbol of Crosshair's role as a soldier for the entire series. It helps him aim and shoot and kill. More importantly, it dehumanizes him. But this is the moment where he has finally begun to reach his breaking point. The helmet has come off and he's not putting it back on. And he picks up the wounded Mayday, who he no longer views as dead weight, and carries him back to the outpost. He stops killing, and he does everything he can to save a life, refusing to leave his friend for the ice vultures. After a montage of their struggle to reach safety, Nolan continues to be as terrible as he possibly can. He refuses to help the man, Mayday, because clones as a group have been deemed outdated and expendable. He threatens Crosshair with the same fate if he doesn't get back to work while he's still useful. But the ice vultures are flying overhead. Crosshair knows it's only a matter of time before the Empire leaves him behind too. And he shoots Nolan. 2 dead men on the ground. Nolan looked down on the clones, but they're the same in the end. And if Nolan thinks he'll be mourned by the Empire, clearly he won't. He looked down on the clones because they were beneath him in the pecking order. The captains looked down on lieutenants, the majors looked down on the captains, the generals looked down on the majors, all the way up to Palpatine, who looks down on them all. I said it earlier in the season, but everyone is expendable in the Empire, except for the Emperor himself. I think Crosshair finally realized that. But was it too late? He passes out and wakes up as a captive in Mount Tantiss. We don't know what the Empire has planned for him, but I guess it would appear that he has some value to them after all. Not as a person, but some sort of experiment. I'm guessing they'll make him into an assassin similar to the one we saw in episodes 7 and 8. A clone with his identity erased. I think we're building to another encounter between the Bad Batch and their long-lost brother. After feeling abandoned by so many, it would be fitting for them to come to his rescue. But all roads seem to be leading to Mount Tantiss at this point, and I can't wait to get there. This season seems to really be picking up speed in its final 6 episodes. The Outpost is one of my new favorites of the series. Let me know what you thought of it in the comments. If you haven't already, please like this video, subscribe to the channel to keep up with all our Bad Batch Batch coverage, follow us on TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram, and consider checking out our Patreon page for video reactions and audio commentaries for every episode as well. As always, thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.